Arlington County Board of Equalization hearings. There are 6 cases on the agenda and 4 board members present. The first case is RPC 3402030 at 320 23rd Street South. Mr. Price, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, board. The subject of this appeal is the Quimby Apartments. As mentioned before, RPC 3402030 at 320 23rd Street South. This is a 445 unit apartment building with just over 79,000 square feet of retail. That was built in 1971. So the crux of this case is a few-fold. We have adjustments to our gross potential income, an adjustment to the commercial square footage, also a vacancy and expense adjustment, and also we're requesting a cap rate adjustment. First, starting off with the gross potential rent, our analysis in the BOE memo starts on page 34, but just starting off with the gross potential income. In our analysis, we are using the apartment rent roll, the gross potential rent of $13,568,820, which comes from the apartment rent roll as of 1/1/2025. As mentioned, this is the market rent that has that can be achieved at the property if all units are occupied. And then we're also asking for a vacancy adjustment for the apartment for the apartments. As you can see in our analysis, we have provided some history of the apartment and the retail vacancy at the property. At the apartments, there has been an average of 9% vacancy. As of 1/1/2025, there's 7% vacancy at the apartments. Arlington County is only using 5% vacancy, so we're just asking for a slight adjustment there. Also, we're asking for an adjustment in the expenses. You can also see in our analysis, we have a breakdown of the expenses of the property over the last 3 years. As you can see, there's a 3-year average at the property of just over $12,000 per unit, or just over $5.5 million worth of expenses over 3 years. When in calendar year 2024, there was $5,800,000 worth of expenses. We are asking for just a 3-year average, which would be $5.5 million. That is broken down between the apartments being $5,283,000, and then the $240,000 for the commercial space. And then finally, for the apartments, we're asking for a cap rate adjustment. There is we understand that Arlington County has raised their cap rates by 30 basis points from year to year, but we have supplied CoStar submarket reports, also RERC and PwC fourth quarter 2024 reports that suggest that a further cap rate adjustment is warranted. So in our analysis, we are asking for we're asking for a loaded cap rate of 5.5%. A loaded cap rate of 5.5%, where Arlington, I'm sorry, we're asking for a cap rate, a 20 basis point increase in our cap rate. That brings the apartment to 6.093%, and then the commercial to 7.543%. Now, kind of going back to the commercial portion. As I mentioned, there are 79,171 square feet at the property. Unfortunately, Arlington is using a higher commercial square footage, and you will see that in the BOE memo on page 8. It shows that there are 79,000 square feet worth of retail space. And we also have that in our analysis as well in the rent roll. So we just want that to be adjusted. And that would adjust the gross potential revenue to $1,593,000. And then also with the vacancy, we're not adjusting the vacancy, but we're keeping that at 6%. And then we're also asking for the expenses. So the Arlington guidelines, and that's on page 58 of the BOE memo. The Arlington guidelines show a 16% expense ratio for commercial properties. Currently, Arlington is using 15%, so we're just requesting a 16% expense adjustment. And finally, just wanted to go over, well, and all that being said, that's how we come up with our um our requested value of $165,391,200 with those aforementioned adjustments. And then if you take the looking at our analysis as well, we have provided a 3-year analysis of the property. And if you were to take the actual calendar year 2024 NOI, that would get you that would render a value of 183,760,000, which is just over $1.5 million difference between where the assessment is and where this value where that value capping the actual NOI would be. And finally, just wanted to briefly go over the the uh, the reconstructed and the DREA test that Arlington County performed. In Arlington County's revision, they have increased the income from 17.4 million to 18.1 million. And that figure is we believe is way overstated due to the actual income at the property being $17.8 million for the year. Drastically increasing it to 18.1 million has not been seen at the property, and then did not occur in calendar year 2024. They also the county did not make any adjustments for vacancy, even though we have provided support that vacancy has been higher than what is being seen at what Arlington County believes. They did increase the expenses, which we appreciate, but their NOI increased from 11.1 million to 11.5 million. And once again, this 11.5 million NOI has not been seen at the property. So we believe that even though the county is making adjustments for the expenses, drastically increasing the income is not supported with the actual calendar year 2024 income and expense. So as I mentioned, with that being said, with those adjustments, that's how we come up to our requested adjustment value.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Bynes for the county, please.
Yes, good morning, board. Good morning, Mr. Price. I just want to start off by saying I will be referring mostly to the summary page today. If we take a look at columns D1 through D3 and E1 for comparison, I would like to note that the DREA rent that was estimated for 2025 was lower than the 2024 actuals by 2.93%. The DREA retail was lower by 0.51%. The DREA GPI was lower by 1.79%. DREA EGI was lower by 2.15%, and the DREA NOI was lower by 2.49%. I would like to also go over to columns F1, F2, F3. This is our reconstruction. This is our test, excuse me. Our test is conducted because when we do our original evaluation for the beginning of the year, we do not have the actuals from the property from 2024. So when we do have the actuals from the property for 2024, this gives us a better indication of what the property value would be. So we did use conservative numbers to conduct our test. We only raised rent by 1.85% for the apartments. For the retail, we did see the excess vacancy that was at the commercial portion, and we did reduce the rent to take in consideration for the excess vacancy. We also increased the expenses by 3% from 2024. I would also like to note that even with a slightly higher NOI than the actual 2024 year, the value actually came out to be higher than what we projected for our 2025 valuation. I would also like to go to columns. Oh, sorry. I would like to also take a look at 3-year averages for growth here at the property. The apartment rents for 3-year growth between 2022 and 2024 was 6.55% growth. The retail averaged at 18.76% growth. GPI averaged 9.15% growth. The EGI averaged a 10.84% growth, and the NOI averaged a 12.49% growth. I will just like to indicate that some of the years were a lot higher than the others, so the 3-year average took in consideration for those anomalies. For our test, we didn't go as high as we could have for our calculations. Also, I would like to state that for our cap rate, our cap rate is supported by the county data and third-party commercial real estate publications such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, CBRE, and RERC. And also, I would like to just again reiterate that this considerable growth year over year at the property. The 2025 evaluation was extremely conservative, as we were actually had a lower growth rate, actually a negative growth rate for what was reported for the 2024 calendar year. With that, I would like to recommend that the 2025 assessment be confirmed at $185 million, $185,219,600. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from board members? Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, for the county, I noticed the only difference between column E and E1 in the reconstruction was there was some expenses taken out. Can you explain a little bit more about what was taken out of the expenses?
Yes. So we noticed that in other admin costs, there was $159,836 in ownership expenses. So that is not, those expenses are not for us, consider operating expenses for us. And also there was 213,851 in replacements that are considered capital improvements. So that's what was taken out for the expenses.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Yates?
It's very minor, but the county and, the appellant pointed out, where's the difference in the square footage on the retail?
Let's see.
I mean, that was a minor item, but
Let me check the rent roll really fast. Give me 1 second.
office or your retail, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. It looks, look from the rent roll, looks like there was a difference of approximately 350 square feet.
Yes.
For our test worksheet, we actually did use that revised worksheet number. I believe I just made an error in writing the
Okay,
original square
Okay.
footage on the summary page here.
all right.
Okay, Mr. Penaranda, you had your hand up?
Yes. I just wanted to get a clarification from Mr. Bynes. The expenses on both the apartments and the retail, that is a percentage of the EGI, correct?
So for the apartment portion, the expenses are the EGI. For the commercial portion, it is percentage of the. Oh yeah, both of them are EGI. Yes, sir. Expenses are EGI. Yes, sir.
Okay, because I don't come up with the same numbers. Like for example, let's take a look at the test retail. If you take that amount of the EGI and compute 16%, I come up with a higher amount than what you have there. And it's the same on the original assessment, so I'm not sure. That's why I was a little bit confused where that, I don't think the percentage is correct. It's not the 16%.
Oh, for the EGI, we do not take away the vacancy from the pass-throughs. We just only use the vacancy divided by the actual retail rent. So we would have
Okay.
to subtract. Yeah, so that's how we came up with the expenses. The vacancy, the pass-throughs don't receive the vacancy and collections.
Does
But
that
it
match your
doesn't
numbers
show.
now? Mr. Penaranda,
I'm sorry?
does that match your numbers now if you back out the pass-throughs?
Not quite, but I guess it makes sense, but I don't see any vacancy numbers. That's one of the reasons. Yeah, I understand that it will make a difference on that. Yeah, I still don't come up with the same numbers, but oh, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no final questions. Mr. Bynes, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Yes, I'd just like to reiterate that the property has continued to see generous amounts of growth over the past 3 years, and also like to reiterate that our original assessment had lowers than the actuals at the property for 2024. And with that, I would just like to again recommend that the assessment be confirmed at $189,219,600. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Price, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Yes, the county continues to talk about growth at the property, and there's no denying that there has been growth at the property, but that's not what we're valuing. We're not valuing the potential of the property. We're valuing what the property was worth as of 1/1/2025, and as of 1/1/2025, the NOI was 11,870. I'm sorry. $11,087,000, and when you capitalize that using the county's NOI, you get a lower value of 183 million. So the counties also spoke about using 3-year averages. If you look at a 3-year average, that's also a lower NOI at 10,118,000. So I believe that there is some movement on this property, and that's why we believe that 165,391,000 is more than appropriate for this property.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's just among the board. Where is everybody? Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, I'll start. I don't really have a big problem with obviously the GPI and the EGI are lower than what was reported, but even with the taking out of the expenses in the reconstructed column, the current assessment is still lower in expenses than column E1. So I ran a couple tests. I actually plugged in the appellant's expenses, which are, slightly higher than, or about 100,000 higher than what was used, and still lower or slightly higher, sorry, than the reconstructed column. And using the appellant's expenses, I got a slight reduction. The current assessment is 6.3% year over year, 6.3% year over year gain, and my number ended up being 4% year over year gain. So I came out with 183 million and change. So maybe I have someone that agrees with me. I don't know.
Okay. Mr. Penaranda, you were questioning the numbers on the expenses. Do you have a different number?
Yeah, no, I was just questioning, normally I check the math and everything, but this one really quite didn't make that much sense. But I said the numbers, I would be okay with a reduction based on, given, I guess, the benefit to the appellant on this. Because like I said, I'm not really coming up with the same numbers, and I thought it would be if I were to make any change, it would be definitely lower than it. Not that much, probably by $500,000 or something, but I'll be okay with that. Because yeah, I think the expenses can be taken in either way.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I would,
so you
yeah,
could live with
I would
Mr.
support.
Mendez?
Yeah, I would support that.
All right, Mr. Yates?
Yeah. I was fine with the county's original number. I looked at the expenses, but I think it's balanced itself out with the income. And I guess I had a lot of questions around the other and the rubs and parking and things like that on the income. But when you get to the GPI and then the NOI, I was fine with the county.
Yeah, I was as well. Mr. Mendez, can you just go over your numbers again?
Sure. All I did was I used the same exact numbers in column, D2, D1, D2, and D3. I just plugged in the appellant's expenses from G1, G2, and G3. And my final number was 183,577,400. And again, I just did that because in the past we've talked about, sometimes the county is slightly off on the GPAI or the NOI, and we don't really like to compensate, or at least I don't like to compensate in just saying, hey, we're going to lower the expenses arbitrarily because we used the lower number up top. And kind of to what Mr. Panorama was saying, just kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt there.
But you think the NOI is going down going forward?
I don't know if it's going down going forward, but I don't like, looking at the reconstructed column and saying, hey, the county's lower on EGI and just making a decision to lower the expenses based on that. I think we should, use as close to what actually happened at the property as possible.
Yeah, I'm torn, but it's also still a $9 million increase to go to the 183. So, Mr. Penaranda, any final comments from you? Are you?
Like I said, this is one of the cases that I'm a little bit confused on the numbers, but I could go either way. I think the original assessment is okay when I first looked at the case, but when I started reviewing the numbers, that's when I kind of started doubting a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I could go with the original assessment also.
I'm sorry?
I can go with the original assessment.
Yeah, I think that's where I lean. It's a little bit high. Okay. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and move to confirm the county at the 189,219,600. Do you have a second?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Yates? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so it's 3-1 without Mr. Mendez. The county is confirmed at 189,219,600. Okay, same agent and assessor. The next case is RPC 0600102A at 4300 Langston Boulevard and 4320 Langston Boulevard. Mr. Price, you can start with your 8 minutes on this property.
Good morning again, everyone. The subject of this appeal is a multi-parcel account. This is the Horizons Apartments at 4300 Langston Boulevard. The RPCs are 06001, 0024, 006, and 005. The current assessment at the property is $76,443,700. Our requested value is $69,981,300. This is a 230 unit apartment building that was built in 1966. So for our analysis for this page, which starts on the BOE's memo of page 31, we're requesting a vacancy adjustment. The vacancy rate, the vacancy rate as of 1/1/2025, it was 8%. Last year it was at 6%. So we believe that the county has continuously been a little low on their vacancy. vacancy at the property. So in our updated income model, we're asking for an 8% vacancy adjustment. And then we're also requesting a cap rate adjustment. As previously mentioned, we have supplied several different publications that suggest that a further adjustment to the cap rate is appropriate. In our income analysis, we have adjusted the cap rate from 6.1% to 6.3%. Now, also looking at the actual calendar year 2024 operations of the property, once again, I believe that the county is going to hint at there being growth at the property, and the fact that the NOI has continued to grow at the property. Not denying that there has been growth at the property, but we are evaluating the property as of 1/1/2024. And the county in the previous case even mentioned at times it is appropriate to use the 3-year average, but for some reason in their actual analysis, they don't consider the 3-year average. So at this property, in calendar year 2024, the NOI was at $4,500,000. When you capitalize that with the county's cap rate, that does result in a slight reduction at the property. But then even looking at, I would say even the 2-year average, because the property in 2022 was still under stabilization as the new owners were taking over the property. So just looking at 2023 and 2024, which we believe is a more stabilized income analysis, you get an NOI. You get an NOI of 4.4 million. Which is what we have similar in our analysis for calendar year 2024, which is 4.4 million. So with all that being said, we really believe that having an adjustment to the expenses, having an adjustment to the vacancy of 8% to the actual, and also the cap rate adjustment renders a NOI and a value that's more appropriate with what the is more appropriate with what the property should be valued at, and that's based on the actual performance and also looking at that 2-year analysis of the property. So with all that being said, that's why we believe that $69,981,300 is more than appropriate for this property.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bynes for the county, please.
Yes, again, I'm going to be referring mostly to the summary page. I would like to start with taking a look at column D and column E1 for comparison. We did reconstruct column E1 just to separate out the parking income from the other income that was reported on the I&E, just so we can make a better analysis for this property. I would like to start by looking at the apartment rents, DRE compared to the actuals. You can see that the DRE assessment was lower by 2.54%. The DRE GPI was lower by 2.22%. The DRE EGI was within $100,000 or 1.45% of the reported EGI. The OPEX was 2.8%. Sorry, the DRE OPEX was 2.8% higher than what was reported in 2024, and the DRE NOI was within $36,000 or 0.79% of the reported NOI in 2024. We could not use the 3-year averages when assessing a property on Jan 1 because, as was stated, the property was sold in April of 2022. So in 2022, we only had partial year I&E, and for 2023, that only really gave us 1 year of history at the property to make the assessment. Now I would like to take a look at column C1 and E1 to make a comparison for the year-over-year performance at the property. Department rents were higher by 6.03%. The GPI was higher by 5.83%. The EGI was higher by 3.24%. The OPEX was only $2,816 higher, and the NOI was higher by 6.77%. When you compare that to the original 2025 assessment, you can see that the county's assessment was conservative compared to the actuals that happened at the property in 2024. Also, I would like to note that this property was appealed in last year, 2024, and we reduced the assessment, which was accepted. And our 2025 assessment is actually lower than the 2024 revised assessment. With that said, we recommend that the 2025 assessment be confirmed at $75,633,900. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? No questions? Okay, Mr. Bynes, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Yes, again, if we just take a look at the DRE assessment compared to what happened at the property in 2024, 2023, we can see that we were very conservative in our assessment at the property. And again, I would just recommend that the assessment be confirmed at $75,633,900. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Price, if you take a minute then to wrap up, please.
Yes, I don't believe that the county has been consistent or is in line with the actual performance of the property. The EGI for the county's EGI and also the NOI is higher than what is actually performed at the property. The property was not stabilized in 2022, but 2023 and 2024, there has been some stabilization at the property, and the county is still not accounting for all the vacancy at the property. So I believe that there is still room for adjustment for this property.
Okay, thank you both. All right, it's just among the board for folks on this. Mr. Penaranda?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. I think this one of the cases that the county did a very good job. I don't see where to make any changes. The numbers show that the county underestimated the GPI, and yeah, I'm totally okay with the assessment the way it is. It's a reduction from last year anyway.
No, I agree. Anything different, Mr. Mendez or Mr. Yates?
No.
Okay, Mr. Penaranda, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll go ahead and move that we confirm the assessment at $25,941,700.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Move that we confirm the assessment at $25,941,700.
Okay. Do I have a second on that? Okay, Mr. Mendez, all in favor? I oppose, so it is unanimous. The county is confirmed at $25,941,700. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a change of folks here, so we need Mr. Chicas, and I believe Mr. William Beston is going to present for the appellate.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, next up on the agenda. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Next up on the agenda is RPC 2201402A at 855 and 835 South Greenbrier Street. Mr. Benston, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property, sir.
Our appeal for this property, it really is two properties, RPC units 22, 14, 403 and 402. And this is more procedural, I believe. This is all about the cancellation of our 4.1.2. Effectively in 2024, we stopped pursuing our permits and actually asked for relief from the taxes then, and were rejected technically in 2024. But then in 2025, after the legislature had unilaterally extended 4.1.2s until July of this year, we effectively did not, we did not renew the 4.1.2. We opted to not extend it. So our 4.1.2 expired July 1st of this year. We believe that the Fillmore Gardens Shopping Center was in the same circumstance, but they canceled in 2024 and had their taxes rolled back to January 1st of that year. And we're asking for the same relief that we believe the project is now. Your county assessment is $26,001,000. We are asking for 15,000,053 based on the income valuation approach, as opposed to the forward-looking 4.1.2, which again is no longer valid, no longer in play. So that is the essence of our presentation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chikas for the county, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, board members. Good morning, Mr. Benson. It was fairly well surmised by Mr. Benson already. This is a case I believe you've heard at least 2 years in a row, very similar to other site plans in the sense that we do value, we being the Department of Real Estate Assessment, values the property with the legislatively improved enhanced density, which is obviously transferable and adds value to what is existing site. In this case, again, as already given in his narrative, this one is a little bit different in the sense that this was one of, I believe it was 3 properties that expired July 1 of 2025, in the sense that those enhancements are no longer there. At least on the case of Marion Pike West, I did verify with CPHD that is in fact the case, that there is no longer any development potential there at that site. So it is back to a garden apartment. That being said, we did ask the appellants to move forward with this case because as a office policy, as a standard operating procedure policy, the department does not change value mid-year based on these sort of changes. And I think to buttress that, we point out that just this year alone, there's another 6 site plans that were approved at various points in the year. None of those received supplements or enhanced value that would be added from that legislative action. Again, the flip side of that is Mr. Benson and his colleagues are the only one who appealed. Of the 3 that expired, he's the only one that did appeal. So we felt it was best for the Board of Equalization to hear both sides of the arguments. Obviously, in reflection of the Fillmore Gardens, we did prepare a income approach to the existing site that is part of your packets in page 6 and 7. And again, that is the idea that we do still support the confirmation of the site plan value that was in effect as January 1. But if the board wanted to go back and use Fillmore Gardens as sort of a mid-year site plan to income approach, we didn't want to come empty-handed, so that is there for your perusal as far as something that the department would stand behind in regards to switching the value approach from site plan value to income approach. But again, please do understand that initially we are recommending the confirmation of the site plan. Thank you.
Okay, questions from board members? Mr. Mendez.
I'm just curious, on the summary page on column F, it's labeled as a revision, but you guys are suggesting that we go with the site plan value?
This is Mr. Mendez, if you could repeat the question.
Yeah, sure. So in column F, typically maybe it would be called a test or revision based on what you're recommending, but it's labeled as a revision here. So are you recommending that we stick with the site plan value of January 1, or, are you suggesting that we switch to the income approach?
So again, we're 100% leaving it up to the Board of Equalization. In other words, what we're establishing is that on January 1st, there was a site plan in play. This, to be clear, and if that wasn't clear from Mr. Benson's statement, they didn't ask for an extension in 2022. It was extended by the Virginia General Assembly for all currently valid site plans. So what we're saying is that if the Board of Equalization wanted to revert to an income approach, that is there for your reference. But we are in fact recommending that based on January 1, the site plan that was in effect would be in effect now.
I'll have another follow-up on that too. Are there any other site plans that expired this year?
There were, yeah,
Similar to
at
this?
least two others. One, the largest, best well-known would be the Marriott, Key Bridge Marriott expired. And I believe it's Rappahannock Coffee also expired.
Okay, and they didn't appeal their cases. They just stuck with the January 1 value.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Thank you so much.
But the Fillmore Gardens, you did roll that back to the income approach. So we have a precedent, is what you're saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just, Mr. Mendez, and just so you know, just because they didn't appeal doesn't mean that it was done correctly. So I mean, I feel like we're in a quandary here because we've got, it appears to be 4 properties. 1 was rolled back, a second one is before us, and 2 didn't appeal. So we can, as a board, if we decide to go ahead and do that, then have them look at those other 2 and reach out to those appellants. You know, and from equalization, I would think that would be the only way we could do it, but other folks? Mr. Yates?
I guess I was looking at it almost as if where we've looked at like other properties where we know a tenant's leaving or something, or tenants moving in, something's changed, that shortly after the valuation was done, or the initial valuation, we know where what the property's value is going forward. And it's not based on the plan.
Right, Mr. Penaranda?
Based on previous cases and also for the purposes of equalizing, I think I'm okay with the assessment the way it is for this year. I think if any change were to be made, it would be definitely for next year. I think Fillmore Gardens had other reasons, other circumstances that were not really the same as this, that just let it expire, and all of a sudden, okay, now it expired, we're not going to renew, and we wanted to make a change on the assessment. I don't think that's the case, so I'm okay with the assessment the way it is for this year.
Okay, because we're still in questions here. So, Mr. Mendez, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask the appellant, you mentioned that you had taken steps in 2024 to, call back the site plan, or just you weren't planning on renewing. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, we very definitively, between the money markets, particularly the money markets and the economic environment in multifamily, we went in our world called pencils down. We stopped pursuing the approval in 2024. We actually appealed then, and that it was our contention, and I don't want this appeal to be contentious, but you asked me to repeat 2024, so I will do that. In 2024, it was our council's opinion that the highest and best value as mandated by the state is not the future use of an approval that really the markets were saying did not have that value. And we took it to appeal, we were rejected, we considered going further, and really quite honestly became aware that the cost to pursue an appeal was going to outweigh the benefits of the appeal, and just pragmatic, just said, well, it's not right, but we're not going to win, so let's just move on. So 2024, clearly we stopped working on the property, we stopped pursuing our building permits, we stopped everything. We've actually put the existing post-World War II rental units back in service. Some of them had been taken out of service, getting ready to develop. In 2023, we've put them back together to make this a rental property again of the post-World War II ilk. So now And parenthetically, as I believe Ms. Dooley mentioned, the state unilaterally extended our 4.1.2. We did not ask for that extension. It was just extended. And whereas in 2025, that unilateral extension expired. And so we had a decision to make before July 1st, before the July 1st board meeting, county board meeting. If we wanted to extend, we needed to apply for an extension. We obviously decided not to formally extend and just let it lapse. So we've known since 2024 that we were not moving forward, and in fact told the county that, but not, yeah, so yes, we're on record repeatedly in 2024 that this approval 4.1.2 was no longer of any value.
Okay,
Did
so
that answer your question, Mr. Mendez?
it doesn't answer mine because I'm a little confused by everything you're saying. You did this, you did that, but did you actually formally abandon that site plan use in 2024?
No. Per the county's records, no. We effectively stopped working on it, and we appealed to the Board of Equalization that this was no longer a viable approval.
Okay, I get that. You keep saying that, but why didn't you officially abandon the site plan? That would make it so much simpler.
Bad advice. I don't know how else to paint it. It was like, well, maybe hope against hope, something good will happen in the future. You have it, you might as well keep it.
But that's the exact reason why we don't
Yeah.
go and give the remedy for it, because you could still use it. So that's unfortunate that you didn't do that per se. But all right, so now to follow up then with Mr. Chikas. So on Fillmore Gardens, you rolled it back. Did they formally abandon the portion of
did.
their site plan?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, they asked for a county board to rescind that enhanced density.
So the difference in what I'm hearing, and that's why because I don't want to open a can of worms.
Yes, ma'am.
Then my understanding is that Fillmore Gardens did officially abandon the site plan or a portion of the site plan usage in 2024, which is why it was rolled back to an income approach. This property did not officially abandon the site plan usage.
That
And
is correct. This plan expired June 30th. The other was formally rescinded.
Of 2025.
Can I respond to that?
Very briefly.
I asked if we needed to file a formal termination, and I was told, no, it will just expire of its own weight. So you don't have to do anything. So to me, it's same.
Right. Well, and again, it's not the same thing because it's still in place and you could have this year done something with it. And we'll get into this in discussion, but okay. Mr. Yates.
Real quick to the appellant, was there anything in writing to the county or anybody related to the county that you're not pursuing the site plan in writing?
Our appeal last year, we've had discussions with staff. That's a hard question to answer because we have had this. Yes, we've had contact with the county. That we're not moving forward.
Emails saying we're not pursuing this, any of it?
Sorry, I'd have to go back and review my emails.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay, Mr. Chikas, if you take a minute then to wrap up.
Just even with the circumstance of this case, as fairly well surmised in this discussion, question and answers last couple of minutes, that is the distinguishing features that we had a site plan that was valid as of January 1. It did expire June 30th, but that is a bit of a different nature than previous precedent. Because our standard operating policy is to value the properties as of January 1st, the site plan was valid as of that date. We do ask that the county board confirm that value. I believe it's 26,001,000.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Benson, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
I take vast exception to that. Um, I just take vast exception to the unparalleled nature that they had to ask and ours. I just take exception, and I have nothing further to say.
Okay. All right. Thank you both. Okay, it's just among the board. This is a tough one, but I think it's clearly the appellant, unfortunately for the appellant's case, clearly defined the difference between it and Fillmore Garden. I look at Fillmore Garden, who officially abandoned the site plan in 2024, and so it was rolled back to the income approach. Had they not done that and the county rolled it back to the income approach, I would think the appellant would have a case for equalization to look at doing the same for that and possibly the other two properties. However, that being said, there was nothing official that, Mr. Benson can't show us any written notification to the county, email in writing, whatever, to verify that they did in fact abandon it. And the problem is we see this all the time, that just because it's going to expire in July, something could have happened this year where they could have turned it around. So I think the case for lowering it next year is certainly there because it is officially abandoned as of July. But I think the county is right at the 26 million from last year, just from a standpoint of equalization. Mr. Yates?
Yeah, I truly see where you're coming from on this, but they did appeal it last year to us, and I kind of remember it stating that this was ending, and we said, well, it'll be in effect next year, and I think we recommended they take formal action, if I remember. But I mean, it was going away. They said they were letting it go. It's a $10 million difference in value. I mean, it's a hell of a penalty for not filing to the county directly, but knowing that the county knew that they were letting it go. And we knew it when they met with us on their appeal. We said next year, but you need to take action. So it's a tough one.
Right, but they didn't take the action. That's my problem.
It's a hell of a penalty. I mean, honestly, they should have had someone telling them take action.
Could I make a comment?
No, I'm sorry. It's just among the board. Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, I think you said it there during the questioning. I mean, that's really the kicker, that they didn't take any action up front, because anyone that has a site plan that expires in the middle of the year could just come back and say, we want to switch it over. I think that's really that's it. I sympathize with the appellant, certainly.
Totally.
And I really heavily considered suggesting that we go back to the income approach. But with that, I mean, we're leaving it wide open for anyone that has a site plan that expires in the middle of the year just to come back and say, hey, we had plans to do it. If we had something in writing, like you said, Mr. Yates, that would point to that, even emails corresponding with the county saying that they did not intend to pursue the site plan, I think I would be a little bit more sympathetic towards the income approach. But with all the information we have, I think I would go with the original January 1 assessment.
The only thing that is recorded is the fact they appealed it last year based on this argument that we're dropping it. They came to us with it.
You 100%, Mr. Yates, but the problem is that there was nothing official. I mean, just because they tell us, we don't have the authority to say, okay, we're lowering the assessment. I mean, we have to do what's within our purview, and that's not in our ability to do.
I agree.
Around anything different?
No, I mean, yeah, I agree with everything that was said. And I think an appeal to the Board of Equalization is not a notification to zoning that, you want to make changes to a site plan. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we've seen cases that, site plans have expired but then they asked, they asked for an extension or renewed later on. So unfortunately, yeah, I think the assessment the way it is for this year is correct.
Okay, all right, then I'm gonna motion to confirm the county at the $26,001,000 even. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second by Mr. Penaranda. All in favor? Aye, opposed. Okay, it's unanimous. The county is confirmed at the 26,001,000 even. Thank you both. Okay. I do have something that we're going to go back here. And so having voted on the prevailing side of the second case, RPC 0600102A, I'd like to bring that case back up just for a technicality.
Right.
Assume, do I have a second there? Okay, Mr. Mendez to do that. Okay. My screen had actually gone down, and that, which is why I asked you to repeat the number, Mr. Penaranda. But I
Sure.
believe that you've got the incorrect number that we voted on. We voted on 25,941,700, and it should have been 75,633,900.
Right.
Yes, you're totally correct. Yeah, which is
Okay, so we're going, would you like to restate your motion then in that correct amount?
yes. Let me take a quick look and give me 1 second, please.
Yeah, no, go ahead, because apparently we did the same thing on the first case.
Yes, I'll go ahead and redo the motion on that RPC, economic unit 0600102A to confirm the assessment at the total of 75,633,900.
Okay, Mr. Mendez, do you still want to second that motion? All right, and all in favor? I oppose, so it carries. That has been corrected to 75,633,900. And Mr. Price, you're still here. I assume you understand what happened there.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then also on the first one, apparently I did the same thing. I'm trying to pull that up right now. Oh, I just misread the number. Okay, so again, having prevailed, voting on the prevailing side, I'd like to bring back up case number 1, RPC 340200030. Do I have a second? Okay, Mr. Yates. Okay, I originally motioned 189,219,600, and that should actually be 185 million.
Right.
219,600. So I will mostly confirm the proper amount there. Mr. Yates, do you still want to second that motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Mr. Mendez, you're changing your vote?
As I raised my hand, I realized I voted against it. So I'll just keep my original vote.
Okay, so that is still going to be a 3-to-1 vote to correct it to 185,219,600. Okay. Apologize for that, but we'd like to get the numbers correct. So that was a decrease for Mr. Price from what we had originally said. So I assume there's no objection there. Okay, the next case on the agenda is the 4th case on the agenda. We have Mr. Chicas and Mr. Warren. Okay, the RPC is 17010-210 at 1600 Wilson Boulevard. Mr. Warren, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about that property.
Okay. Good morning, board. Good morning, Chris. I am going to start on page 37 of 111 of the county's board memo. It's our summary of facts. The subject property is located at 1600 Wilson Boulevard. It's comprised of 1 tax RPC. It's currently assessed for 2025 at $32,047,500. And the value we're requesting from the board today is $26,710,700. The subject property is a 14-story commercial office building. It was originally built in 1975 and contains 174,358 square feet of leasable space. The property is located at the corner of Wilson Boulevard, North Pierce Street in the Roslyn submarket. Moving on to the next page, page 38, and just our main issues that we'd like to bring forth to the board. The petitioner is utilizing an average rental rate in their pro forma of $41.08 a square foot for the 96,000 square feet of occupied space, which is based on the in-place leases as of January 1st, 2025. We applied a market rental rate of $34 a square foot for the approximate 68,758 square feet of vacant office space in our analysis to follow. This estimated market rent that for the $34 a square foot for the vacant space is well supported by two new leases that were signed in 2024 at the subject property. You can see those on page 38 of 111. Malcolm Drilling Company, Suite 201, and Xfinion, Suite 300, both signed at $34 a square foot. The county, in their revised test column, was at $35.50 a square foot for the vacant space. In their test column 2, you'll see that their occupied office rental rate used actually increased from the original assessment from $42.50 to $44.50. There have been a number of renewals at the subject property of existing and current tenants that have signed for renewed at rental rates that are way lower or below $40 a square foot. ASRC Federal Holding Company, they take up a number of floors and suites. They renewed in October of 2024 at $38 a square foot. They were previously paying $47.50 a square foot. Suite 930, which is 2,000 square feet, 2,100 square feet, is the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. They renewed also in October of 24 at $36 a square foot. They were previously paying $42 a square foot in rent. So the county in their test column is showing an increase in the occupied space and are still well above what the new leases are being signed here, as indicated by those two new leases that were signed in 2024. And the rental rates here are trending downwards, as is the income. Regarding the parking and pass-throughs, the county was estimating total parking income of $247,900 in their analysis. The total actual parking income that was reported in 2024 was $185,000 or $62,000 less. The petitioner used the actual parking income in their pro forma analysis to follow, and the same with pass-throughs. We used the actual pass-throughs and other income reported at $203,000, as well as the total other income of $96,000, which was reported in the 2024 income and expense survey. Vacancy at the property, the petitioner used the same vacancy rate as the county of 28% in their summary analysis to follow, which is supported and indicated with the county's 2025 assessment guidelines. However, in addition, we would like to point out there are 3 more tenants with leases expiring at the subject property in 2025, and that would total 8,670 square feet of vacant space. They have confirmed that those tenants are not renewing and will be vacating the space in the current calendar year. You can see those tenants listed on page 39. Total revenue or EGI, you can see a downward trend in the county's I&E summary over the last 3 years, starting at $5.9 million in 2022, down to $5.3 million in 2023, and now down to $5.1 million in 2024. I believe Mr. Yates in the first case spoke about where properties are trending, and this one, total revenue and vacancy has been a huge issue, but total revenue and reported revenue has steadily been going down over the last 3 years, and then which is evident with these signed renewal leases at much lower rates and new leases at again significantly lower rates than what some of the previous tenants were signing for at the subject property, which is just a reflection of the current office market we're in. Total operating expenses. The county was estimating total operating expenses applied in their analysis of $10 a square foot. The actual operating expenses reported in calendar year 2024, they did have a down year. It was at $865 a square foot, or 29.6% of effective gross income. But however, historically, you can see that this property is operated right around $10 a square foot. So we did stabilize those operating expenses in our analysis and use the same $10 a square foot expense rate in our analysis to follow. With regard to the cap rate, we are making an upward adjustment to the cap rate for the significant high vacancy that this property has experienced over the last several years. The property's been over 30% vacant for the last 3 years and over 38% vacant for the last 2 consecutive years. I'm not going to spend too much time, but we have included investor survey cap rate reports from RERC, PwC in our exhibit section to follow. Again, finally, just looking back at the county's I&E summary page, similar to what we're seeing with the leases being signed here at much lower rates and how that's having an impact on the total revenue. It's also having an obvious impact on the net operating income or the bottom line after taking into account operating expenses. Subject property has seen a decrease over the last 3 years in net operating income, $4.3 million in 2022, down to $3.5 million in 2023, and $3.58 million most recently in 2024. The county's revised test column model is estimating net operating income of $4,065,000, so significantly higher than what this property has been able to achieve over the last several years. Based on that information, you'll find our side-by-side income analysis on page 42 of 111. We believe our value based on the income is well supported, and happy to take any questions that the board has. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chikas for the county, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Mr. Warren. So again, the county will also be relying heavily upon the summary sheet, page 3. We will also be referencing the rent roll that's in place. I believe that's on page 4, possibly 5. We did hear mention of a recently signed lease at $34 a square foot, but not of the others at $38 a square foot, which made up a majority of the new leases that were signed. Therefore, then we are looking at a more reasonable renewal rate for that vacant space. You can see even with that $38 metric, the county actually tested quite a bit lower, almost $2.50 lower. It's a bit of a wash in the sense that we were a bit aggressive on the leases that are in place. I did an alternate test, bringing down the leases in place down approximately $2 a square foot and increasing the vacant space $2.50 a square foot, and essentially came out with a $20,000 difference for that gross potential. So when we're looking at the test in place, it really is more of a reflection of the department's appraiser who got the original assessment fairly spot on. You're looking at the rental rates that are in place. Again, a vast majority of this building has lease expirations into 2027, 2029, 2033, 2028, 2029, a good bit longer than the next 4 or 5 years, showing again stabilization as far as the tenants that are in place. As the board well knows, these are almost all subject to some sort of increase on an annual basis, be it 2%, 3%, or something else that's baked in. But that rental rate that you see annualized for the per square foot rate is obviously going to increase in the 2025 year. Not to mention, so are those leases that were mentioned by the appellant and us as far as renewals. Those renewals won't stay at the rates that were quoted for very long. They will increase and for the majority of their lease. I think one of the leases that was mentioned was actually essentially given a bit of a deal on its per square foot rate because they only signed for 1 year, which is fairly uncommon for a lease and multi-tenanted building. In regards to, again, looking at the original assessment, column D, we can see that the per square foot rate that was indicated by the appraiser is essentially spot on. Again, allows for a modest 2 or 3% growth based on what was achieved in the calendar year 2024. Again, vacant space, we're within $1 of what was achieved as far as renewal rates. The assessment for retail apparently is low. It goes back and forth, obviously, with some of the projections made based upon what the information we received with the 2024 I&E and rent roll. But at the same point, based on the information that the appraiser had at the time of evaluation, did a very good job. And this is even estimating at 76,600 square feet of vacant space, as opposed to what was reported for January 1, some 68,758. So the county actually over allowed by some 8,000 square feet of vacant space. As the board again is fairly familiar, we did take a column F to reconstruct the actuals that were submitted with the gross potential that shows up once you allow for that vacant space, again at that rental rate that again is being achieved currently at the newly signed leases for 24. Again, I think as was noted by the appellant himself, the county overestimated by some $145,000 of operating expenses. Granted, that was based on the information we had for years 22 and 23, but at the same point, these are numbers that must align. And so you can see that the county actually overallowed by almost $1.50 per square foot. In regards to the below the line adjustments, again, the board's familiar with this. These were made vis-a-vis the numbers that were in place and the excess vacancy that was there based on what we thought was the case for January 1. Again, please understand that that's some 8,000 square feet higher than what is actually at the property January 1 for vacant space. When we're looking at year-over-year changes, obviously, we believe that ours is a much more realistic drop in value of some 14.5% year-over-year, as opposed to the appellant's request of a drop in value of negative 29%. Given that there are a large number of leases in place, given that these leases don't expire at the earliest for 2 or 3 years, even making adjustments for the 8,000 square feet that does expire at some point in 2025, the per square foot rental rate only changed by 3 cents per square foot because obviously it's not a large figure as far as the occupied space that's currently 96,000 square feet. Given these notions, given the, again, reasonable drop in value year over year, we do believe that the county should be confirmed at a value of $32,047,500. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Excuse me. Questions from board members? No? Okay, any final comments, Mr. Chikas?
Just to again reiterate, it's fairly well located on Wilson Boulevard in between Roslyn Metro, Courthouse Metro. Has a large number of tenants in place that their rental rates will grow year over year. We've overallowed on the operating expense, and as you can see, based on the reconstruction column F, we actually under projected by some $220,000. We do believe the county should be confirmed at a value of $32,047,500, a drop in value of approximately 14.5%. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Warren, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yes, and just to reiterate that the county's gross potential income in their test column, after reviewing the information and the rent roll, increased significantly with regard to their occupied rental rate from $42.50 up to $44.50, and in their applied market rental rate for the vacant space at $35.50. Again, there's been new leases signed in 2024, which would indicate a much lower actual market rental rate at the subject property at $34 a square foot. And the current in-place leases indicate a occupied rental rate of $41 a square foot. We've shown, again, a number of renewal leases in the past year where they're renewing at levels way under $40 a square foot, at $38 a square foot and $36 a square foot. subject property, I mean, currently the current assessment is $196 a square foot. We've seen a number of sales recently with properties with high vacancy that have transacted well below $200 a square foot.
Time
But
is up.
again, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's just among the board. Where are folks on this? Mr. Yates?
I'm fine with the county's assessment. I think the expenses could have been a little bit slightly different. I went over the rental rates. I think things balanced out on the GPI. Well, that's where I am.
All right, Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, I agree. I tried to look at all the rental rates and dig in and run a couple tests, but I'm ultimately okay with the county's assessment.
Okay, Mr. Federanda, anything different?
No, nothing different. I agree with it. I think it's looking at all the numbers, beginning with the GPI, considering that the appellants don't take the vacancy amount in the I&E, so I think the test shows that it should have been maybe adjusted a little bit, but I'm okay with the assessment the way it is.
Okay. All right, would somebody like to make a motion then?
Sure. I'll move that we confirm the 2025 assessment at $32,047,500.
I'll
Okay,
second.
motion, a second by Mr. Yates. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay, it's unanimous. The county is confirmed at 32,047,500. Before we move to case 5 on the agenda, I've had a request to take a 5-minute break. So it is 10:17. If everybody takes 5 minutes and comes back, we'll finish up the last 2 cases.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we just need Mr. Yates.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay, we've got everybody. Okay, so resuming the agenda, the next case up is RPC 34020-251 at 251 18th Street South. Mr. Warren, you can start with your 8 minutes on this property, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this property is located at 251 18th Street. It's currently assessed at $103,418,700, and the value we're asking for today is $92,100,000. That value is in large part based on a third-party appraisal done by Valbridge Property Advisors. And I think on the call here with me today, I saw him earlier, but Larry Colorito and his team. And I'm going to cede the majority of my time to him to help you explain the appraisal report. But that report is in the board's memo on page 125.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, very good. First of all, I'd like to thank the board and the ladies and gentlemen on this call for the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate it. As Blake mentioned, you have a copy of the report. Our estimates of gross income, our estimates of expenses, and therefore our estimates of net operating income are admittedly very similar to what the county projected. The issues go to two major items. One is cap rate, and one is what we in the industry affectionately refer to as below the line adjustments. These are adjustments that the market would make to what would otherwise be the stabilized value of the property for unusual or unstabilized things that are going on as of the date of value. So in both cases, these are real market adjustments that would be made. First of all, to the issue of cap rate, we're using, prior to loading for the tax rate, we're using an 8.5% cap rate, and I believe that the county is in the high sevens. We provide evidence starting on page 79 and moving over to pages 80 and 81 of the report of how we came up with our cap rate. There are sales in the market as high as 10%. And this is netting out the unusual circumstances that exist. I mean, basically what's going on in the market right now is you've got the 10% best stuff that's selling, meaning, 15-year leases to the best credit tenants. And you've got the 10% worst stuff that's selling, meaning the stuff that's just beyond repair financially. The 80% in the middle is sitting for the most part. And the reason it's sitting is because the spread between what sellers want and what buyers are willing to pay has grown measurably. And that in and of itself implies significant increases in cap rates because the meeting of the minds is no longer where it used to be, down in the low cap rate range. Admittedly, we're not at the highest end of the range either, the 10% type of stuff that's out there. But the range of the surveys, for example, that I've heard mentioned several times in these other cases, is basically around 6% to about 10%. And the averages of the surveys are all within the mid to high sevens. Now, that being said, I don't think I have to tell the people on this call that Crystal City is a high risk market right now. Okay, we've got a situation where vacancy has been and is currently, as of the effective valuation date, in excess of 20%, in the 25% range. So the market is looking at Crystal City, what was once a very low risk market, those of you that can have as much gray hair as I do and can remember back that far, has now become a very high risk market to investors. And so for the cap rate to be right around the mean of the surveys in the high sevens is really not reflecting the risk that's in this market. Now, again, we're not advocating for the 10 cap rate that would be at the upper end of the market. What we're saying is that the risk of the submarket really needs to be reflected. And we are at an 8.5% cap rate prior to loading for the tax rate as you would do in these matters. The second and just as critical issue has to do with what I termed the below the line adjustments. There are 3 or 4 categories of things going on at this property that would reflect something other than stabilization. First of all, we have several suites where the market rent is actually above market, and we've given credit for that on a temporary basis. We have also several suites where the leases don't commence until several months after the effective valuation date, and that rent loss, that temporary rent loss, needs to be reflected in a deduction. We also have the same suites that I mentioned where the leases haven't started yet, where the tenant improvement allowances also have yet to be expended as of the effective valuation date. That's perhaps the most significant expense, because in today's market, landlords are having to spend a considerable amount of dollars in order to get tenants to come in. They're having to spend a lot of money on tenant fit out, and that money, as the effective valuation date, had not been spent yet. So any potential buyer would need to spend that money. And lastly, there are some rent abatements for suites 1000 and 1005 that aren't reflected in the stabilized model, meaning free rent that was granted to those tenants in order to get them to sign the leases. And so when you deduct the sum of all those, there's a $5.25 million deduction that needs to be made. Our value prior to those deductions, using the 8.5% cap rate loaded for the 1.2 plus tax rate, was $97,358,936. There's a $5.25 million deduction that needs to be made for the below the line items, leaving a rounded value of $92,100,000 as of the effective valuation date. Thank you, and I'll stay on the line for questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chikas for the county, please.
Yes, ma'am. So relying primarily upon the summary sheets. Again, I'm not sure which gentleman spoke of it, but as the board can see, when you compare columns D and H, we're actually some $200,000 lower than NOI that's projected by the fee appraiser that was attached. We'll go over a couple things too, is if you'll note that the square footage that's actually used, and I do apologize, I made an error on line 13 of H. The square footage that's being used, the NLA is actually indicates it's some 97% occupied. Now, again, that's including some of this transfer from tenants that are leaving 13,000 square feet and picking up 27,000 square feet. So it's actually an increase, net increase of some 13,400 square feet with the same tenants. That's a good sign. They also executed a recent lease of some 27,000 square feet that we didn't pick up as of January 1st, 2025, but they are in place and listed as executed for a 12-year term. When we do look at the rent roll that's in place, I believe, again, that's on page 4 or 5, you can see that the tenants that are there not only are AAA rated, so GSA is there through 2032. We have tenants in place 2027, 2033, 2031, 2028, 2037. So again, this is a property that is quite well stabilized. And again, we're not even taking into account this increase in occupancy from what the county used at approximately 92% for January 1 to approximately 98%. As far as location, again, that's not much to dispute as far as the holistic look at Crystal City or National Landing as a whole. But when we're looking at direct capitalization of this income approach, we're looking at a building that literally sits on top of the metro. So it's quite well located as far as walkability. It's within a half mile of Pentagon City Metro as well. So again, as far as location, tough to beat. As far as tenants in place, again, well-established tenants for some 8+ years to come. Again, as we noted in last case, these properties, these tenants that are in place are almost assuredly affected by some sort of increase year over year, be that 1%, 2%, 3% CPI, whatever it is. these per square foot rates are only going to grow. So it's really a matter of looking at the cap rates. When we look at the cap rates as suggested, the surveys as suggested on page 80 of the appraisal, they're just huge swaths of range, 6.75 to 10, 5 to 9.5. This is PwC Northern Virginia. Now, unfortunately, this is fourth quarter, which again, as we've talked about fairly ad nauseum, we don't have that available to us at the date of valuation when these are done sometime October, November. But they still show a ginormous range. The average is 6.05 to 10.4. So again, I think we made the case that we're comfortably within that range. Again, when you reconsider the facts on the ground, the tenants that are in place, the longevity of the tenants that are in place, the quality of the tenants that are in place, the location of the building itself. We do believe that the county should be confirmed at a value of $103,418,700, a year-over-year declination in value of 6%, 6.2%. Again, as compared, as opposed, I should say, to the appellant's request for a negative 16.5% drop in value year-over-year. Again, the county would request a confirmation of $103,418,700. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? No? No? Okay. Any final comments, Mr. Chicas, in your minute wrap up?
Again, just to sort of reiterate the strength of the tenants in place, the location itself, the increasing value of the tenants that are in place. We're $200-some thousand lower than the appellant's projected NOI. It's a difference in cap rate. We do believe our cap rate projection is supported by the information that's provided by both the county and by the appellants. We do request a revision, a confirmation of a value of $103,418,700. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Warren, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
I'll cede my time to Larry if he's the additional comment.
Sorry, Blake said he concedes his time to Larry. His mic isn't working.
Okay.
I apologize, folks. I didn't hear him say that. Okay. Real briefly, the weighted average lease term here is about 7 years, which is about market average. I'm not debating that being located right on top of the metro is not a good location. What I'm saying is that Crystal City in its entirety is in significant trouble right now, as evidenced by the 25% or so vacancy rate across the board on the office space. And finally, I'm not debating NOI per se. What I'm saying is that there are several items to the tune of $5.25 million that destabilize or make this property unstabilized temporarily that need to be accounted for, that the county has not accounted for as well.
Okay, thank you. It's just among the board. Where are folks on this? Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, I was looking at column D and H and comparing the two, and it seems like the county is, a little bit low. It certainly, close to accurate with their numbers. Maybe, like I said, even a little bit low. This mostly seems to be a cap rate argument. Just for fun, I plugged in the county's cap rate to the column H for the appellant and applied the $5 million below the line, and it still came up to $100 million. So with all that, I think I'm okay with the current assessment.
Okay. Mr. Yates or Mr. Penaranda? Mr. Penaranda.
No, thank you. No, I agree with Mr. Mendez. I think, overall, looking at summarizing all the numbers and everything that is shown, yeah, it's pretty much a cap rate issue. And I think, like I said before, based on what we've done and other cases that we've seen and equalizing everything, I'm okay with the assessment the way it is.
Okay. Anything different, Mr. Yates? Turn your microphone on, sir.
Sorry about that. I'm fine with county's column D. The one thing I was kind of surprised at is the level they increased the expenses. That's something I don't normally see the county do that much. But I'm fine with D.
Yes, that's okay. All right, well, with nothing else, then I'll go ahead and I will move to confirm the county at 103-418-700. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mendez. Motion and a second is on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is unanimous. The county is confirmed at 103,418,700. And the last case on the agenda, oh no, we do have a change of assessor. Mr. Chicas is leaving us and Ms. Roskin is joining us. Okay, the last case is RPC 34020-289 at 220 South 20th Street. Mr. Warren, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Yes, thank you. Can you all hear me all right? Okay. I'm going to start on page 41 of 186 of the county's board memo. The property is located at 220 South 20th Street. It's comprised of one tax RPC, currently assessed at $115,553,800. The value we're asking for from the board today is a value of $107,777,900. The property was originally built in 2009. It's a 265 unit high-rise apartment located in Crystal City. And it has an additional 1,563 square feet of leasable retail space on the bottom floor of the subject. Turning over to the next page, page 42 of 186, the county is currently estimating a gross potential income in their analysis of $9.6 million. Based on the year-end 2024 income and expense survey that was submitted, the actual gross potential rental income generated at the property was $9,584,842, $31,758 below the county's gross potential income. We also did use the actual other income and parking income that was reported at the subject property of $158,966 for other income and $325,000 in parking income, which is approximately $100,000 below the county's estimate for other income and parking used in their analysis. Both the county and the petitioner used the same vacancy rate applied of 5%. And looking at the effective gross, the county's estimated EGI of $9,135,770. It's approximately $50,000 higher than what was actually reported in 2024. The subject property reported the highest EGI they ever have, which was a 9% increase in 2024. Prior to that, the highest EGI reported at the subject was $8.3 million. Operating expenses, total operating expenses that were reported at the property or that's being used by the county in their current analysis is 29% or $2.6 million. The petitioner used the actual operating expenses reported on the year-end 2024 income and expense survey of $2,777,822, which is about $177,000 above the county's estimate for operating expenses. This property is operated at a fairly consistent level over the last 3 years, 30% EGI in 23 and 22, and 31% most recently in 2024. Net operating income, the county is currently estimating $6.5 million, $6,532,076 for their net operating income used in their 2025 income analysis, which is approximately $224,000 higher than what the subject property was able to achieve most recently in the 2024 calendar year. A brief look at, again, the history of this subject property shows the petitioner's NOI used in their analysis of $6.3 million is appropriate and in line with the actual operations of the subject property, most recently in calendar year 2024, as reported in the income and expense survey. Arlington County did increase their cap rates applied to apartments this year by 30 basis points. from 2024 to 2025, indicating a trend toward trend more toward market alignment than we've seen in the past. However, additional adjustments we believe still need to be made, and we proposed a conservative 20 basis point increase to the current cap rate, which is again supported by some of the most recent national investor cap rate surveys, RERC fourth quarter 2024 and PwC fourth quarter 2024 for the national apartment market as well as the Mid-Atlantic region. With regard to the ground floor retail, the county's current assessment is at $815,100 for the 1,563 square feet of retail. Our estimate of value, which is based off of the actual expenses reported, as well as the vacancy of 6%, which is based on the county's 2024 guidelines for ground floor retail commercial, would indicate a value of $731,327, which again is below the current assessment for the commercial component of the subject property currently. So again, based off of this information, the most recent reporting for the subject property, we believe our requested value is well supported. And with that, I'll close and happy to answer any additional questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Roskian for the county, please.
Good morning, board. Good morning, Blake. Thanks. Okay, upon review of this particular property, I was looking at our original assessment and what was being reported for the 2024. So I did a little bit deeper dive. We did rent roll analysis, both on the apartment and the retail. So that brings me to the test column. So for the test column, yes, our rents look a little bit higher than what's being reported. But when I did the apartment rent roll analysis, I actually used less than what was being reported in the apartment rent roll. So we're using the number that you see in the test column for apartment is less than what was being shown in the 2024 apartment rent roll. I did that to try and accommodate for the additional 1% in vacancy that they were reporting. And then as we go down the line, we get to the expenses for the apartments. The expenses that we used are still a little bit lower, but they are higher than what we used for January 1. When I analyzed, I asked a bunch of questions. I sent questions off to the owner. And I asked, so what's going on here? Some of the expenses increased, for example, the security. That increased 170% year over year. And I asked what's going on. Well, I guess they just signed a new contract for security, for the Allied security and for Castle security. So all of a sudden, it jumped substantially. The other thing was landscaping. That increased 92% year over year. And they're stating that it has to do with nearby construction. That's an anomaly. That is not a typical increase in for an expense. And then the other one that's really important to note is the business tangible tax that they reported. That increased over 1,000%. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Well, they included the bid tax rate amount, which was $47,000. We're already accounting for that in the cap rate. So you cannot include that as an expense, okay? So that brings me back to the apartment test column. That's why our expenses, we did increase them from the January 1, but it does not quite come in line with what they reported. And it had to do with those three particular expenses. As for the test column for the retail, once again, I looked at the rent roll and what they're reporting for rent and for the pass-through. And as you can see, I also took a look at what their expenses were. I pretty much came in really close to what their expenses were for that. And you can see the adjustment, the adjusted value for the retail on that came out to 734,000 in the test column. However, when you combine the two values, the combined value in the test column still is about 400,000 higher than our original January 1 assessment. So we are asking that you confirm the January 1 assessment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from board members? No? Okay, Ms. Ruskin, if you take a minute to wrap it up then.
Sure. Once again, I looked at the new information that they gave us. The rents that I used for the apartment was less than what they were reporting on the rent roll. Then I made some adjustment to the retail. However, that test column, once again, the combined value after increasing expenses and everything, it still came out 400,000 higher than our January 1 assessment. We are asking that you confirm the original January 1 assessment of 115,553,800. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Warren, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yes, just with regard to the operating expenses, I know we've stated this before, but operating expenses and maintenance costs for these properties have been increasing over recent years. Repair and maintenance, contracting costs, the cost in supplies. I think we talked about this last week as well, where there was a new contract signed for a concierge. Here, there's a new contract that's being signed for increased cost for security. So you're just seeing an increase overall in normal typical operating costs for these types of properties. Again, looking at the year-end reporting, the county's current assessment is approximately 200. That their estimate of net operating income is well above what this property was able to generate most recently in 2024 by over $200,000. And with that, I'll conclude.
Okay, thank you both. All right, it's just among the board. Where are you guys on this? Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, I was okay with the assessment. I just thought the expenses looked a little bit low. So what I did is I looked at the test column, I looked at the appellant's pro forma, and the appellant is a little bit lower on expenses, so I decided to plug those in to the original assessment, and I came up with a slight reduction to 112,386,600.
Yeah, that I agreed that I thought the expenses were low. Mr. Yates? Turn your microphone on.
I'm sorry. I thought the expenses were low too. However, I'm fine with the original assessment. I want to say that, but I really heard Lori and what she drilled down into those expenses to find out what the changes were. And I thought she had very good explanations for them. And I'm comfortable with where her expense number came out.
Okay, Mr. Penaranda?
Yeah, I agree. I think the expenses were something that maybe we should take a look at it. I did not, I normally don't like to use other numbers from other columns. So what I did is from the original assessment, I just used instead of 28.5%, I used 30% on the expenses. So that amount came to 2,740,731 just on the apartments. So the final value that I came up with is 113,146,700. I just the expenses on the apartments at 30%.
Yeah, that's what I did very similar and came out. I might have a math error, but came out pretty close to what you did. Mr. Mendez, can you live with that?
I could live with that. The reason why I used the appellant's expenses is because in the test for the county, they bumped up the expenses. So, evidently they may think it could be higher. And the appellant used a lower number than the county. So, they must be in agreement that it's probably a little bit lower than the county's number. So that's why I used the pro forma numbers, but I could live with that number as well.
Okay, all right, Mr. Penaranda?
Sure, I'll go ahead and move that we reduce the assessment to 113,146,700 based on increasing the expenses on departments to 30%.
On the original assessment.
On the original assessment, yes.
Okay, and I will second that. All in favor? Aye, oppose. So, okay, it's unanimous. The assessment is reduced to 113,146,700. Thank you both. Okay, that completes the agenda. Does anybody have any other business?
Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, then we will stand adjourned here at 10:55. Reconvene tomorrow, Wednesday, August 27th, in person for the board members at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Okay.
And if
Thank
the
you.
board could just stay on for 1 second.